Torey stencil. In 2019, it was recorded that there are over 100,000 people waiting for an organ on the transplant list, according to Amy Lewis, who is a part of a global medical device manufacturer in Copenhagen, Denmark, in which she wrote in the journal Transplantation Reviews, which was published on October of 2020. Based on a survey I took of this room, everyone here is a registered organ donor. As a donor, it is important to be informed about the organ transplantation process and system to determine if changes need to be made. First, I will talk about the history of organ donation. Second, I will talk about the negative aspects with the system. Third, and finally, I'll discuss how citizens and researchers are trying to better the process for everyone. So let's take a look at the history of organ transplantation. According to Dmitry Bensinover, who was part of the Department of Anesthesiology, Preoperative Medicine at Pennsylvania State University, she wrote in the journal Biomed Central, which was published in March of 2019, that organ transplants can be dated back to Greek and Roman mythology. There are many doctors to thank for how far the organ transplantation system has come. One of the doctors is Dr. Carroll. Dr. Carroll specializes in vessel reconstruction and cold graft preservation. He also is known for his many successful kidney transplants in dogs, and later, his great findings would award him a Nobel Prize in Medicine and Physiology in 1912. In 1933, the first human-to-human organ transplant would take place. However, even though it was the first one, it was not the first successful transplant, as the patient later died 2 days later, and it was done by a Ukrainian surgeon. And that was due to a lack of knowledge in immunology. Immunology wouldn't later be studied until in the 1960s by Dr. Medawar. Dr. Medawar specialized in immunology, and he also specialized in graft rejection. And today, he's considered the father of transplantation for his significant work. He was also awarded a Nobel Prize in Medicine and Physiology in the early 1960s. Now that we looked at the history of organ transplantation, we'll take a look at the negative aspects with the process. According to Concita de Pascual, a medical doctor at the University Hospital of Catania, she wrote in the journal World Journal of Transplantation, which was published in December of 2017, that one of the many problems with the transplant system is the psychological factors associated with it. These psychological factors are left untreated, and in patients, they experience things like stress, PTSD, personality disorders, and major depression after transplantation. Families also will experience grief and denial and will find lack of support from the hospitals. And if left untreated, it can hurt the healing process physically. Another problem is the shortage of organs around the world. Organs are not something that can just be harvested whenever and wherever you want. Somebody either has to donate them or die in order for them to be transplanted. However, only 58% of the population is a registered organ donor. So if the majority of the population registered to be an organ donor, the majority on the transplant list would decrease greatly. And although not every organ can be used due to disease or damage to it, it would still help significantly. Another negative thing with the system is the discrimination and efficiency of it. Minorities are less likely to receive an organ, however, they are more likely to be put on the transplant list. Researchers say this is due to the language barrier between the majority and minority group. Wherever the reason is, race should not be a determining factor in who gets an organ or not. The system is also a very complicated process, and doctors should work to make it easier for everyone. Now that we looked at the negative aspects with organ transplantation, we will look at how citizens and doctors are trying to better the system for everyone. Citizens recognize the psychological factors associated with organ transplantation, and they took the initiative. And now doctors and hospitals provide better support for those receiving an organ transplant. And there are many therapy groups and support groups for people to come and talk about what they are experiencing. According to Swarnima Agarwal, who is a doctorate student and research assistant at the Indian Institute of Technology in India, she wrote in the journal Frontiers in Medical Engineering, which was published on October of 2020, that doctors are now finding new ways to create organs, and one of these ways is to 3D print them. Doctors take cells from a patient in need of an organ, put it into a printer, and out comes an organ. Although this is a fairly new process, in the future it could be one of the greatest medical engineering in all of medical history. In 2002, allocations were made to help better the discrimination and efficiency of the process. So now doctors and hospitals are working to inform the minority group in order to increase their consent rates, which it has. Minorities have now had higher consent rates since the 1980s. To improve the efficiency of the process, whoever has the best matched organ to the organ that is being donated will receive it. And and that will eliminate discrimination across the system. Now that we took a look at the history of organ transplantation, and then the negative aspects, and finally the positive ways in which doctors and researchers are trying to better the system, becoming informed of organ transplantation is crucial to the system. Hundreds of thousands of people are counting on you to make a change and better the system for everyone.
523, great job. 1, 2, 3.